when you go back to like hypergamy, right?
Yeah.
Where you're hearing things like women date across and only up,
yes.
right? That is not actually what's going on. Now, it might be ideal. It might be what if you poll somebody they would report, right? But what reporting looks like doesn't actually isn't actually reflective of what plays out. These are what I would like to see happen.
I think if it's big enough, it does. So, like for instance, if you take all of Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge,
look at all these bottle girls out here that are taking care of their men. I'm sorry, that totally contradicts hypergamy.
It doesn't contradict hypergamy.
Of course it does.
But those men have something going for them. It's just not money.
No.
It's just not money.
Okay. If hypergamy, I was under the understanding that it meant she is going to date her equal or above her equal. So if he's not bringing in that money, then how is he her equal?
So he's taller than her, he's stronger than her, he's good looking in her mind.
Then wouldn't that just be like a Chad?
Yeah, but a Chad is also above as far as hypergamy is concerned. So here's the thing. When it comes to that, the reason why we believe what we believe is because when you look at Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge, the top 10% of the top 10% of men on Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge are getting 63% of the right swipes. The top 20% of men are getting 83% of the right swipes.
That's because women are more selective and a guy will just bang anything.
Right, no, but it doesn't matter.
But that's not, it does matter. Context matters.
No, what I'm saying is there should be a normal distribution then. If women are selective, there still should be a normal distribution. There is no normal distribution. Women find 80% of men to be unattractive. That's not selective. That's just like to the point of like delusion. 80% of men can't be unattractive.
Here's something that I don't hear people say. That is not actually, I don't think that that's really representative of how they're picking. Look, when a woman is, let's say she's online, okay, and she's swiping, there are things that she has to consider that a man doesn't. For example, if I actually meet up with this person, is he going to sexually harass me? Is he going to give me a dick pic? Am I going to be safe with him? She's taking that into account, which is going to not make it so equally distribute. Like a guy doesn't ever have to consider that. I don't want to say ever, but like that influences how she's picking and how she's swiping.
For sure. But she's still picking the wealthier, good-looking guy who still may send her a dick pic and still may sexually harass her. It doesn't change anything. She's only picking because of clear signs of status that she can see, which then proves hypergamy. That's the reason. If there was no hypergamy, you would see a normal distribution. So, for instance, for men, the top 43% of rights, the top 63% of rights swipes go to the top 43% of men. Remember, top 63% of right swipes go to the top 10% of women, but the top 43% of men, or I'm sorry, the other way. Top 10% of men, the top 43% of women. So that means men see hot women as hot, medium women as medium, and unattractive women as unattractive, because men are selective. They're not as selective as women, but they are selective. When it comes to women, it's 80% of men they find unattractive. And then when these women date these men at the top, then they complain he is a narcissist because he has so many options with women. But the problem is that's the way women stratify men. You are unattractive or you are garbage. And this is what I found personally. My clients, if they don't do things that make them relevant and competent, it's not that they're like 50% solution. They're either at 100% solution to women or they're fucking zero. They have no chance at all. And so that's the reason why. And it's not because women are inherently delusional. It's just Dunbar's number. Human beings are made to be around 150 people, but we're around 150 million people, and because we can see them all on social media. And so we have this problem of choice. It's every guy with the Ferrari and the six-pack who's cute and has a picture on the beach with his girlfriend. Like, women are comparing themselves or their relationships to every one of those ones that they see, and then they look at the men that are in their life, and those men are always going to fall short. There's no way that they're not going to fall short. Men do the same thing, but men are less selective, and men find more women to be attractive as a total population of women than women find men to be attractive. And so because of that, you end up with this situation where, like, when I was 22, I couldn't find a date, and now I'm 45 and I'm successful, and like my girlfriend's incredible, but like before that I couldn't believe how many more women wanted to date me when I was 45 and I made money. It was crazy. Like, so from my standpoint, I can't refuse to not believe hypergamy is real.
Like, look, I'm not saying that it's inherently false or that there isn't some value or some truth to it, but it's an oversimplification of how women pick.
No, it's an oversimplification if it's black or white. It's a statistic. Like, I didn't say 100% of men.
It's not all about stats and facts. Like, I know that you guys are real heavy on that, but it's not. It's way more. That's way more goes into it than that. And I think that there are other things that you guys should at least consider as far as how women pick. Because look, regardless of whether the guy is tall, broke, or whatever, there are a lot of women out here taking care of their men.
Yes, and those men are good looking.
But not all of them.
They're good looking, or they're funny, or they're drug dealers, or they're fucking talented, or something.
If that's the case, Michael.
Yes.
Then guys do the exact same thing.
No one's complaining or saying that they don't.
Then guys are hypergamous as well. I could use that same. I could use that same logic and say guys are also hypergamous.
It's I forgot what it's called. It's not hypergamous. It's hypogynous. I think that's what the time is. No,
for
of course.
Guys, is that what it's called?
Yeah, for sure. Because what will happen is as men become wealthier, the difference in age between them and their partner actually increases. Do you know this? There's studies that show this. So like as men get older, this is from Inuit Indians and this is Russian men, European men, American men. As men become wealthier and more high status, the difference between them and their wives' age actually increases. They get younger and younger women. So the idea of a man growing older with a woman, they get into their 40s, he divorces her and then gets another woman, that would be the thing that you're talking about. I'm not saying men don't do that. Of course they do. They do. Yeah. But the thing is, men are hardly filing for divorce. If 20% of divorces are filed by men and 80% are filed by women, men are in a situation where, like, are they more likely to cheat? Yes, but they're less likely to leave their wife. And they're less likely to, like, leave their family. Far less likely to leave their family than women are.
I just see so many contradictions to hypergamy, and you did give some. Look, you gave some good examples of different ways to view hypergamy, right? Than just financially, which is helpful for me.
Yeah.
But I do think that there are other, like these stats that are reporting, they're mainly getting from Tinder.
These are different ones. Dr. Buss, he does the different one. The Tinder one, the reason why we use the Tinder one is because it's the biggest one. The Tinder one is millions and millions of people.
Right, and so it's relevant, but that is the one that Fresh and Fit referenced that one. Like I've heard other people in the manosphere reference that stat. That's why I brought that up because it was used, so I'm using that stat so that the viewers have a sense for why this is happening and how these things are, because the framework is important for me to create. Okay, look, women. This is not a reflection of hypergamy because women are swiping more. There are other things that you have to take into account, okay? And that could be, if a woman goes out with a guy, she's got to worry about her safety. That's not something that a guy has to consider. So that's not just about hypergamy. That's about safety. And so these kinds of things influence those stats.
Right, but when she goes out with the guy with the Lambo and who's really good looking, she also has to worry about her safety, but she doesn't care because he's good looking.
So I think that, so on to that point,
she takes Molly and does coke and goes to Ibiza with the good-looking guy. She goes to Dubai with the good-looking guy.
You're gonna like this, okay? Yes, when there is incentives, you're more likely to excuse that behavior, right? You're more likely to justify it.
Burning Man is fucking dangerous. Do you know how many girls went to Burning Man with fucking strangers and stayed in their RV?
Look, I agree, Michael, but still, what I'm trying to do, I agree with a lot of your points, actually, and I don't disagree with Red Pill entirely. Yeah. But there are these little falsehoods and these little things that I think
here's where we can find a balance. When I say 83% of the time women fall in love with their fair partners, the part we forget is that 17% of the time they don't. 17% of the time they were just looking to fuck a hot guy. That's the part you're missing. Like when you're saying,
I'm not missing.
I'm sorry. I'm not saying you're not missing it. That's the part that's being missed. It's like statistics does count for everyone. The part when I say 80% of 80% of men are deemed unattractive on Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge, there are women who find those men attractive.
There's value in statistics, but there's value in how you measure it and how you pull the stats. Because look, I can find anybody anywhere to tell me to make anything valid. I literally can't.
It would be hard to find.
It's not. No, it's really not. You can go to any court. You can go to any court and find an expert on this that skews the facts this way and says this is why this looks
so here's
this way.
The thing. When we exceed one standard deviation, so it's going to be very difficult for you to find a study that shows most men file for divorce when 80% of divorces are filed by women.
I'm talking about something generally as far as how stats, how it's not as reliable as.
Totally agree.
That's the point that I'm making. I'm not saying that they don't have value. I'm not saying that they're useless. But what I am saying is that they are not everything. And that if you hear stats, my audience, you do need to question it. And you do need to consider the source for how they're pulling the stats. Tinder, probably not the place you want to pull your stats from.
So let's do a different one. So, actually, no, I think Tinder is actually a good place.
It's actually not. And if you go back to this earlier clip and watch why it's not a good place to pull it from.
Okay, so listen.
I agree with her.
Thanks.
Right, it's not a.
I agree with her.
It's not a perfect place to pull stats from, but
that's the dumbest place to pull stats from.
Why would it be dumb? Women are women are describing what they find attractive.
Look, it's not dumb, but But here are the vulnerabilities with that. Okay, it's a self-report. Also, here's
it's anonymous. It's anonymous. Okay, it's not self-report. It's anonymous.
It is. No, it might be anonymous, but it's still a self-report. It's saying I do this. That is a self-report. That is how you're pulling stats. It might be anonymous, but anonymous can still be a self-report.
No. What you're talking about is there's a flaw in self-reporting, and that people will say what they want you to think instead of what they actually think. There's no when you're having anonymous self-reporting.
I'm not. I didn't make that connection.
Okay, so let's do a completely different one. Institute for Family Studies does one study, and they show that if a woman has been with more than 20 men, she has about a 17% chance of staying in a marriage more than 10 years. Okay, that's pretty statistically significant. If you want to say, well, it's not 17, that's too high. Okay, then let's just say it's 30% chance of staying in a marriage. That's still more than one standard deviation.
What I want to say is this: I don't want to get bogged down by the details. I don't want to go into one study or another study because, like I said earlier, I can find one study to support something that I'm saying. I could find one study to support what you're saying. What I'm saying, this is consider the source and question the facts, okay? I don't think Tinder is a reliable source to pull facts like this from. One, because it is self-reporting, anonymous or not, and two, here's a really, really important one. It's not necessarily how things play out. Okay, just because they're reporting that, yes, I would go out with this guy doesn't mean they actually do. Yes, I would like a woman that looks like this doesn't mean they actually do.
Oh, sure.
There are factors that is why you need to question
but the reason, the purpose of using that stat is to say, what do women inherently find attractive?
That's fair enough. And see, I don't actually disagree with that point, okay? I don't actually disagree that there's value and validity in what they're reporting. I don't question that. But is it how things actually play out? Because I will tell you, here's a good example, okay? Here's a good example. So I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I work with couples, relationships all the time, right? I will have a guy come to me that says, I don't want to date a girl with kids.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what he would report on that self-report. That's what that Tinder's stat would say.
I'll tell you, there's two huge red pill guys that are saying the same thing, and they're both dating girls with kids.
Boom.
Of course.
Boom. Okay, this is why those stats should be questioned because if I was pulling a Tinder report, okay, it would say, I don't want a girl with kids. And then that goes into the self-report. And then this is what red pill pushes out, right? But then I get those people in my office, okay, and they're dating the girl with the kids.
Sure, of course.
Okay, that's why you question the stats.
but so that also, when you deal with that also has to do with men like saying that they have certain boundaries when they don't have them. Because men generally...
Because men lie.
Well, it's not just
not necessarily.
It's not that men lie. It's like this. You say, I would not eat pickles until you're starving. Then you're going to eat whatever the fuck's in front of you. And if 26% of men under the age of 30 are virgins, they have no sex at all. And something like we're getting into the mid 30s of men who have had zero sexual partners in the last year, and they're like, I won't date a woman with kids. Motherfucker, they'll date anything with anything. They'll date a woman who used to be a man at this point. Like that's what we're getting to. So that's why what you're saying is it's not comparable. But with the whole Tinder, Bumble, Hinge thing is
what I'm saying is 100% comparable. It's absolutely comparable.
What do you mean?
Like, are you saying that the example that I gave doesn't make sense?
No, it makes sense. What I'm saying is what will happen is those are outliers. And if what'll happen is if it was 50-50, then you could make your argument. But because it's 80-20, even if I'm 20% wrong, I'm still pretty right. That's the reason. It's 83% is 1.5, or 84% is 1.5 standard deviations. We're like talking about 1.25 standard deviations when we're talking about that number of men found unattractive. That's way outside the norm. So what my point is, even if I'm wrong, even if I'm 50% wrong, I'm still right because most women find most men unattractive. That's the whole point.
Well,
and that's still valid.
It is, and I've actually agreed with you on that. Okay, what I'm trying to show is a different side, how things actually play out, and why you should actually question these things.
Question everything.
So, we'll put a pin in this one.
Okay.
How about that?
But like another one that like pisses people off. Dr. Buss came up with this one, and I agree. Like it's the thing is, one more time, I'm going to blame men first so that I can blame women second. Men are more likely to cheat. Are men more likely to cheat if they've had a lot of sexual partners or a few? Actually, that doesn't matter. It matters about whether or not they want to cheat. And what we find is it's about the same. If they've had a lot of sexual partners.
How do you know that?
Huh?
How do you know that?
Because they'll do studies on this and they'll say, are you more likely to cheat? So what the difference is, do men have more sexual partners? Are they more likely to cheat? Yes. So if you're the drummer for Metallica and then you get married, you just have more options to cheat. If you're an assistant manager at Walmart who lives in Des Moines, Iowa, and then all of a sudden you get married, you don't have as many options to cheat. So men cheating or not cheating isn't really, or it isn't a reliable statistic, whereas women it is. If women want sex, sex manifests. Both of you agree to this, right? If you want it, Lana, if you want sex tonight, sex just manifests. Am I wrong?
Yes.
You go out anywhere. So for men, it's not just do they cheat, it's like can they cheat? So most men can't cheat because most men are not, like I said, 80% of men are deemed unattractive. So that's why the stat doesn't mean as much. But here's the opposite side to it. The number one the number one indication about whether or not a woman is going to cheat in a marriage, the number one correlation is how many sexual partners she had before she got married.
The number one correlation is actually not that. It's reporting dissatisfaction in her relationship.
No,
and know
beforehand.
that the number one reason why women cheat is because they're not happy in the home and because they're doing a double workload.
For sure. We're talking about two different things.
That's why.
We're talking about two different things. I think you're talking about filing for divorce. That's a different thing. When I'm talking about women who
I'm talking about cheating.
Yes.
I'm not talking about filing for divorce. I am literally saying, I pulled up that stat. I don't actually have it on me, but Google it.
Okay. So what you're saying is a reason in the marriage, and what I'm saying is a correlation to the marriage. The number one correlation about whether or not a woman is going to cheat in a relationship is how many sexual partners she had before the marriage.
No.
Are we just playing word games at this point? What does that mean?
Okay. Dr. David Buss, in his book, the 6th edition of the Evolution of Desire, he goes over what are the correlations on why people cheat in a marriage, and the number one correlation is how many sexual partners they had
what's
before
the
they got
difference
married.
between using the word correlation versus me saying
Yeah,
reason?
so a reason, what you're saying, because the reason you're saying
I said the number one reason.
Right, because that's actually self-reporting. A woman is saying that the reason why she's divorcing a man, when people report why they get a divorce, they're always going to say, I'm right and they're wrong. Always. It almost never you're going to hear somebody blame themselves for why they're getting a divorce. They're always going to blame the other side. The correlation about number of previous sexual partners and the relation to that to marriage, that's a different situation.
Wouldn't that be a self-report as well?
It would, but the problem with that is but the problem with that is women are reporting higher than their normal body count, so I tend to believe them. If a woman comes to me and says, I've only been with, like for instance, this whole thing with Nina Agdal, she's like, I've been with 5 dudes. No, you haven't. That's a lie.
Did she actually? I don't want to switch topics on you, but did she
Logan
actually say that? He said that,
Logan
right?
said that means Logan. That's what she told Logan.
Are you sure though, or is
we'll go over that in a second. Well, my point is, Bilzerian had the best way of saying is, if I talk to a girl who's like 30 years old, she's like, I've been with 3 dudes. Like, she could be lying, she could be telling the truth. If I talk to a girl who's 25 and she says she's been with 84 dudes, she's telling the truth. She's telling the truth. So if a girl comes in there and says, yeah, I've been with more than 20 dudes before I got married, she's probably not lying.
Well, look, you guys have a bias, though. Like, in just the way that you frame that alone, there's a bias.
Women
because
have a bias.
maybe, but I'm pointing out yours right now because you used that example.
Yeah.
And so your bias is this. You're like, if she's got a higher body count, because my personal belief is that by this age she's going to have a higher body count,
It's not a personal
then
belief.
I will, like,
That
it is a belief.
It's a statistic.
That's a personal belief, though.
Oh, no. A personal belief is an opinion. It's a statistic. Like, the statistic shows when evolutionary psychology studies happen that women with higher body counts are more likely to cheat. That's just that's what
right. But
it doesn't mean they're all going to cheat.
The personal belief is this: if she reports higher, I'm more likely to believe her because of whatever the stat says. It's hold on. It's your personal belief based on whatever the stat is. So you are more likely going to believe somebody that reports higher based on the information, the knowledge, the skills, and that you have.
Lana, how many women do you know that over-report how many sexual partners they have? Do you have a lot of female friends that have been with 10 dudes and say they've been with 50?
That's not what I'm asking.
No, it is the point.
It's not the point.
The point is you can't come up with a single woman who's ever done that.
Wait, you're talking about
with a man that actually tells the truth about his sexual partner.
Correct. No, Lana, that's exactly my point. Men lie up, women lie down.
No, they don't.
So look, I'm actually
Men do not lie and increase their number of sexual partners. Really, Lana? Remember, we're recording this. You think men do not lie and say they've had sex with more women than they have, and that women say that they've had sex with fewer? Because they do. You have to know that.
Oh my God. Can I talk?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My point is, men lie, women lie.
Yes, in opposite directions. Correct.
It doesn't matter which direction.
Well, it does for this study. It's exactly what it was.
Because either way, whether men are lying or women are lying, there's still a lie. And either way, no one's gonna care about what the fuck, like no one's gonna sit there and actually care about the sexual partners because everybody's gonna lie. So if a woman says I had sex with 87 people, the only reason why you believe her is because you want to believe negative, not positive.
No,
exactly.
No, hang on.
It's
no,
true.
because you're.
It's not negative. It's not. It's belief.
I let you speak, motherfucker. Damn.
It's not belief.
Hang on. No, that is a belief because you just said right now that you would believe a woman says that she had sex with 87 people. If she's 25, she's telling the truth. But if she's in her 30s and she says she only has sex with 3, that's not true.
No, I didn't say it's not true. I said that she could be telling the truth or could not be telling the truth.
You're more likely. The bias is that you are more likely. You and Dan Bilzerian are more likely to believe that if a woman reports a higher body count, that she's being honest.
Yes.
That's the belief, right? That's the belief. Okay, so. like that is a bias in how you're reporting this.
Correct, but then what you do is you examine the bias with the scientific
fair
method.
enough. Look, we went off on a tangent. All I'm pointing out are little discrepancies and little biases, and you can do what you want with
there
them.
is no statistics that don't have biases, but you can't without statistics.
So what is your argument without a statistic? Because all you do is argue statistics.
Then it's anecdotal. Like you say, well, what is the bias without statistics? Without statistics, there is no Johannes Kepler.
But
Without
statistics are not 100% fact.
No. But
Statistics are not fact.
Right, but
statistics are not fact.
Okay, Lana.
Statistics are not
Lana, you're
fact.
not winning the argument by repeating yourself. One of the problems is if you don't have science that builds on other science, then you don't have James Clerk Maxwell and then Albert Einstein. You don't have a Johannes Kepler and then Isaac Newton.
Okay, so in this case, the statistics in this room, one person believes one thing and two people believe in other things, which means our statistic is correct.
So you would need
that's a study right there. No, that's a study.
It's not a study. So
that is a study.
Lana, central limit theorem.
That is a study.
Okay,
Think about it.
So I'm going to explain to you. Central limit theorem in statistics means as n approaches infinity, you start to receive a normal distribution.
Dummy it down for people who don't understand like me.
So as you get more, if you get more data points in a study, you're going to start seeing a normal distribution. And the normal distribution is going to give you a more indicative understanding of what people believe and what people want. There's no way to say, we're just not going to go off statistics.
So then how can you do a study of 100 people when you have 8 billion now people in the world?
It's not 100. Like
what is it?
Then it goes back to what I said about Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge. That's like 40 million people.
Well, 40 million out of 8 billion.
Still, but that's still
a small statistic.
Lana, no one
so a statistic is not a fact.
Lana, no one watching this is going to say, well, 40 million people is not a statistically viable source of people data points.
It's not.
No one who has
I just did.
Lana, no one who has any education in data science is going to agree with you. No one.
So what I'm going to do is here's what I appreciate you weighing in.